The Town Board of Estes Park Board meeting is now in session. Anyone who wants to stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance with us may do so. I'm going to wait for... That's all right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Onward to the agenda approval. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
A second.
Trustee Hazelton moved to approve the agenda as written. Mayor Pro Tem Sanak seconded. Any additional comments? None. Therefore, we will vote. And I should point out from this, it is a unanimous vote. And we do have a quorum, but we do have two missing trustees for various reasons tonight. Trustee Lancaster and Trustee Youngland. But again, we do have a quorum. We can conduct town business. We also have a special guest tonight up at the dais, which is the proper way to say it, even though everybody else in Estes Park says dais. Just saying. Anyway. Check it out, go look in the Oxford English Dictionary. Anyway, we have Dennis Hoshko, who is the chaplain for the police department, and he, a couple months ago, won the incredible pleasure of being with the mayor for a day. We started at 7 a.m. Hopefully we won't finish at 1 a.m. In fact, he turns back into a pumpkin at midnight, so he won't make it till 1 a.m. Anyway, you can go ahead and make a comment.
Well, I'd just like to make one slight correction. I didn't win. I paid for this seat.
That is true. And EVIX is the beneficiary, yes. So the $3.49 it cost to get a day with me, no, it was actually quite a bit more than that. And it's a wonderful thing for EVIX, too, the fundraiser. So good stuff. Good to have you here. And I have actually tapped him for advice along the way in his opinion. If you were mayor, what would you say? So there you go. It's been a very good day. We will move to public comment for items not on the agenda. Stay away from the quasi-judicial stuff. Those have to be reserved for the appropriate public hearing. This is not a conversation. You'll be limited to 3 minutes. You'll have to provide your name. Does any member of the public wish to speak on a non-agenda item? I see no movement. It's like the auctioneer looking for that little twitch, So, okay, we'll move forward to town board comments and liaison reports. Today, I am going to start far left on the east side. Trustee Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been a busy fellow the last few weeks, and some of it was town stuff, some is not, but it was all town related somehow. So I went to the Janet Marshman event at the library. I attended the Watershed Coalition's 10th anniversary celebration. I went to the Salute open house, followed by the EVIX open house. Right before the study session, I went to the Sarah Leonard, the new Visit Estes Park director, meet and greet. And so none of that is official town business, but it helps to keep track of what else is going on within the town, to connect with that, particularly since we got all these special districts and different nonprofits. So in terms of my liaison report, there were I'm liaison to the Economic Development Workforce Council. I'm not going to really say anything because they're making a presentation tonight. They've been doing a lot, to say the least. I am liaison to the Board of Adjustment. We actually have 2 candidates for the open position that we're going to try to interview for next week. It's been a position that's open for some period of time. And then the Housing Authority, this happens every time. The Housing Authority meets the day after the first board meeting of the month. And by the time the second board meeting rolls around, I can't remember exactly what we did in the Housing Authority, but be that as it may, there's a very, very interesting thing happening with the Housing Authority. They made a public announcement this week that they are going to be the first recipient of a Proposition 123 grant with respect to leasing at Fall River Village. And it's they're the first one in the state. It has to be at a Proposition 123 location, which the Fall River Village is. And it's a process where it's a reduction in rent that goes into a savings account that at the end of each year is matched and then becomes available for somebody that wants to transition to a home ownership situation. So it's a really creative program. Hopefully it'll get a lot of involvement from the renters at Fall River Village. And it's an exciting way to, promote their mission beyond the rental to workforce. There's one other thing I want to raise, and I just feel compelled to do this because of what happened since the last meeting. At the last town board meeting, we denied 2 rezoning requests on the basis that neither applicant had complied with the requirements of ballot issue 300. The ordinance adopted as a result of this ballot issue requires the written approval of 2/3 of the owners within 500 feet of property in order for a rezoning to be approved. So one of these matters was for property on Stanley Circle Drive, owned by the town and being developed by the Housing Authority. And one was for property on Valley Road owned by Mr. and Mrs. Borda for a number of years. So in the course of the discussion about the Valley Road rezoning request, I noted that it was ironic that 2 of the strongest advocates for the passage of ballot issue 300 made public comments by email urging the town board to support the Valley Road rezoning. Following the meeting, one of these individuals filed what she called a formal complaint against me, alleging that my comment constituted bullying and intimidation and was in violation of the town board code of conduct. Apparently this has not happened before, so there's no real procedure on how to deal with this other than it is going to be raised by a town board member. And so subsequently I asked the town board to evaluate this complaint and determine whether or not that comment violated the town board code of conduct. So the situation on the zoning of the Valley Road property is indeed unfortunate and is a direct result of multiple erroneous rezoning done by the town over a number of years, some of which were done even without notice to the property owner. I believe that the town board would have unanimously approved the rezoning if ballot issue 300 had not been in effect. I felt personally that it would be hypocritical of me to support the rezoning in open defiance of the plain language of the ballot initiative approved by the voters, and I believe that other trustees had similar feelings. I certainly did not intend to bully or intimidate the complainant with my comments. My intent was only to point out a likely unintended consequence of the ballot initiative in what was admittedly a very unusual rezoning request. The irony arose from key supporters of the ballot issue urging the town board to ignore a duly enacted town ordinance that they had vigorously promoted. I will leave it to the other town board members to weigh in as to whether these comments violated the town board code of conduct. I did not think it did, but it's up to the other town members to weigh in and make the decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Hazelton.
Just one item for me tonight, Mayor. I've mentioned this before, so this is a reminder. Visit Estes Park has a newly established marketing advisory committee. They're looking for people to sit on that committee and work with Visit Estes Park on their various advertising, promotional plans, and just kind of give input from a resident and or business owner perspective if you happen to be one. So if you have interest in that or background in marketing, please consider that. Applications are due February 27th. There's a link on visitestespark.com. It's been in the various media, local media, and I also am happy to email it to folks, so reach out to me. But I just encourage folks to apply. Again, that's February 27th for the Marketing Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Sinek.
So I attended the CAS meeting, which is the Colorado Association of Ski Towns. One of the big topics was the missing middle housing. We've talked about it a little bit here, is that, we have housing for lower income, there's usually housing for higher income. It's that missing middle, that's somewhat of a problem. And they were looking at different solutions, and basically, to overcome the barriers, they were saying that by reducing minimum lot sizes, allowing for greater variability of housing types and structure sizes, reducing or eliminating parking minimums, and incentivizing higher density in small structures, which are a lot of things that we talk about here, and a lot of things that people don't like. So it's a difficult road to get through on that one. And so I think in the future, we have to start looking at some of that. We always think that the workforce housing is for the affordability, and that's usually not the case. I've seen in this town. The workforce housing here is attainable, which erroneously 8 years ago when I got on this board, I thought attainable was affordable, but it is not the same. And so it's really trying to figure out where that middle level is and what is affordable for the middle, and maybe not for the lower income as much. Well, not dating it too, don't get me wrong. But to figure out where that middle is, and try to figure out how to, affordably make houses for that section of the community. So that was interesting topic. Rooftop rodeo is another one I'm on liaison for. And and just to give you a few dates, this year the rooftop rodeo is July 6th through July 11th. The parade will be July 6th. Anybody interested in being a volunteer for it? It's a lot of fun, and it's a really nice committee. And so if you're interested, you can contact me. But their next meeting is February 19th at 7 p.m. You can actually join remotely if you just want to kind of watch and get a feel of what's like. And so I do have I'm not going to say it out loud right here, but I do have the link for that. If anybody's interested, please let me know. And it's a great community event, and it's a lot of fun to get involved in. So they always need volunteers, and you don't have to volunteer the whole week. You can volunteer, 1 or 2 nights if you can. It's a lot more fun. The more, just like anything else, the more effort you put into it, the more you get out of it. But they're looking for volunteers. So let me know if you can do that. Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Eigel.
Thanks, Mayor. I have a couple of things just to catch the board up on in the community, perhaps. There's a group in town that is organizing, actually it's on a national scale, but it's local too, to welcome, orient, and provide a resource to J1 or seasonal workers to the community. Looks like a good program. It looks like what some people have been really seeking to advocate for. Folks that are new to our community, have no idea what's going on here, perhaps even new to the United States. But it looks like it's going to provide and address a lot of the concerns that have been raised over the last couple of years. So looking forward to that. That's in development. I am not in charge of anything. I'm aware of it, but it's not something that the average person would be aware of unless a trustee told them about it. So that is, that's in the works. Also, I have been involved in some conversations. I have a sensitivity about parking management downtown and how we can improve on that for the community, for the residents, for the visitors, and for the overall success of the program. So while I'm not announcing tonight we have abolished parking forever or we have raised the prices forever, the parking staff and administration are looking hard at options for dynamic pricing for perhaps free parking today and paid parking another day, depending on need, and something that will be more consistent with the objectives of that management program. So that's encouraging to me, and you have seen me be critical of that in the past. So I'm looking forward to staying in communication about that and keeping an eye on it to work constructively to improve it, I hope. So I'll report back depending on how that goes. It is very informal right now, and it is in a lot of theoretical form, but I think that there are some action steps that they're going to take that will bring us the data that we need to make good decisions. So hopefully that's encouraging to you and people who use the community and want to come here and visit. Find the best parking for the best price and the most fun. That's it, Mayor. Thanks.
Thanks. Guest trustee, do you have any comments?
Yes, I do.
Go for it.
I want to commend our mayor. I've spent the entire day with him for over 12 hours now, and I want to assure everybody here that you definitely are getting your money's worth.
I think it works out to 47 cents an hour, so yeah, good deal. Thank you. A couple things. I noticed the announcement of the Estes Nonprofit Network will be dialing down by the end of this year. I feel that they've done a tremendous amount in supporting and educating nonprofits in town, and I think the work that they've done will live on even after that organization shuts down. And it's a little ways off, and we'll make comments when it gets close to that time, but great work by Cato and company on that and predecessors. Crossroads taking on the thrift shop cheers a lot of people up. It sounds like it's going to be still a distributor of raised funds to a lot of different organizations in town. Last year, I think that the thrift shop, the village thrift shop, gave about $246,000 to about 22 or 23 different organizations in town. So it is a good operation, and it would be lovely to see that continue. So thanks to Brian Schaefer and Crossroads on that. I had an opportunity to speak to the Rotary, give the state of the town. That is always a really good thing, and it's great to see some new members and officers in Rotary also, and all the duck race stuff coming up. My most fun thing this week, and you can walk by my office and look at the little bulletin board out there, but I hope to get this in the paper too. Travis and I had the sixth graders in town hall a couple months ago. A bunch of them got to sit up here, and they were out there, and we were doing question and answer and talking about a bunch of stuff. And a lot of them sent thank you notes last week. Some of them did art. Every one of them wrote stuff out. Some of them were jealous that they didn't get to sit up here and, push the buttons and stuff. So we'll have to do it differently next time we do it. But the best one of all apparently is modeled after the Powder Puff Girls mayor, and she had me on there with Mayor Hall as the Powder Puff mayor. If you haven't seen it, you'll see it in the paper, hopefully. I'll try to get that as my official photo. Maybe hey, what happened to all the pictures over here, all the mayors anyway? Oh, maintenance on the, anyway, we might have to put that one up instead. I mean, it's just better. So that was cool. Now, I want to do one little serious thing. I was informed today by someone that I had said something in the town board meeting when we were talking about Initiative 300 and the vote and the percentages of the vote. And I was told that I was quoted as saying, and now we're stuck with it. So I thought, well, that's pretty out of character for me. And I went back and I looked at the board meeting from last time at my various comments and the various public hearings, including the one where we talked about the arithmetic of the vote, which is mainly my way of saying, come on, people, I need more people out to vote, especially with the trustee election coming up, so you'll hear that more from me. And so I went back and looked at it and transcribed myself. And if you can find somewhere on there where I said we're stuck with it, hey, you let me know where that is. Because what I actually said was that's 21.5% of the registered voters, the eligible voters who made this decision. But it is the decision. It is the law. We must respect that. I hear what the trustees are saying, and I agree with Trustee Lancaster and Trustee Brown, and that's where we're at. I didn't say we're stuck with it. So if you find that on the tape, point it out and I'll apologize, but no, that's not my style. Anyway, We'll move on to the town administrator report. Mr. Mahalik.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
And one other thing, I want to thank Officer Paul for being here, and after 2 years, I now know how to properly pronounce his name.
Paul.
Officer Paul. That's what the kids call him. That's what I've called him for a while because apparently I was saying it wrong, and it's Mazzela. Mazzela. Okay, Mazzela. So leave that S out of it. So, okay. Thank you for the security. Anyway, we will move on to the consent agenda. I will read it into the record in full. The expenditure approval list, bills is item 1. Item 2, town board meeting and study session minutes dated January 27th, 2026. Item 3, intergovernmental agreement with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation to accept the Persons Who Wander grant award for $8,897. Item 4, Resolution 1326, professional service agreement with Executives Partnering to invest in children, which is, for a child care facility master plan. And item 5, Resolution 1426, setting the public hearing for a new hotel and restaurant liquor license application for BYS Brothers LLC, DBA Prospect Bistro, 205 and 207 Park Lane, Estes Park, Colorado. Does any member of the public or the town board request to have one of these items or any of these items removed from the consent agenda? I don't see that action, so I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
A motion to accept the consent agenda is written by Trustee Hazelton, seconded by Trustee Brown. We can vote. Wow, that was fast.
She didn't want to go home at 1.
Yeah. And it passes unanimously with the quorum that we have. We'll move on to report and discussion items outside entities. And we have the 2025 base funding report, Economic Development and Workforce Council, presented by Director DePasquale. And, that's the only one, Estes Chamber of Commerce Director. Okay, it's just a long title over here. But it looks to me like we have a couple of able assistants, so. Yeah.
Will you turn the button on at the bottom of your, yep, thanks, Colleen.
And can we get our presentation up? It's on here, yeah. We just hit the arrows.
Okay. All right, I think we're set. Good evening, I'm Christina Kraft. I am here today as the Economic Development and Workforce Council Chair. I work closely with Colleen to support our economic development activities that is supported by the town. So thank you for the opportunity to provide the update today on how the base funding has been used to strengthen economic development and support the businesses that make Estes Park a vibrant and resilient community. We appreciate the town's continued support of how essential this work is and your partnership in helping us address the real needs of our community and our local employers. As you know, the Economic Development and Workforce Council is built on a belief that strong public-private partnerships create stronger communities. That collaboration is a competitive advantage for us and a major reason that Estes Park has been receiving accolades from across the state and our economic development partners for our community-wide approach to economic health and problem solving. On the presentation head slide here, we do highlight our investors in economic development. Our work centers on business retention and expansion. This is something that we, for many years, have called caseworking, and I will just highlight that that has been shifted in terminology in the economic development space. So it's really focused on our local businesses and how important those businesses are to our community and the economic development of Estes Park. When our local businesses feel supported, they reinvest in our community, they create jobs, they may extend their season, and we keep our dollars circulating here in Estes Park. And this is exactly what the base funding helps make possible. The council itself is a cross-section of our community, bringing together leaders from our town, the county, housing, small business, and private sector to ensure that the decisions made are grounded based on the needs and opportunities of our collective community. In addition to the members that you see listed on the slide, we're pleased to share that Sarah Leonard has recently been appointed to represent Visit Estes Park on the council, further strengthening the alignment between our tourism economy and our year-round business community. Your investment from the town enables us to do this work and maintain direct relationships with our businesses, identify challenges before they become crisis, or react if needed. We connect employers with resources, with partners, and technical assistance. And these efforts ensure Estes Park remains a place where our businesses can thrive and our workforce can live, despite the unique challenges of our mountain community. Before Colleen speaks to you about specific work of the EDWC over the past year, and on behalf of the entire council, I do want to say thank you for your partnership, your trust in recognizing the value of sustained economic development work in our community, especially that's tailored to the uniqueness of our community. Having community representation with folks that live, work here, and are invested in this community succeeding, we feel is very important. So together, we're building conditions for a resilient and a prosperous collaborative Estes Valley. And I know Colleen is very excited to share some of the activities that we have accomplished throughout the past year. Come on up.
One thing she failed to mention is she was recognized at the state level as our volunteer for the Economic Development and Workforce Council by the EDCC. So she didn't include that in her little, yes. So I want to share some of our highlights with you. We talked a little bit about, we have kind of removed the word caseworking from our work and now talk about it as business retention and expansion. A lot of economic development offices also focus on attraction. That's not something we necessarily have the geography for in the space, so our focus is definitely on keeping our current businesses open and is giving them as much support as possible. So one of the, did I miss? I might be missing, bear with me. So we did put together our brand new BASE 2.0 program this year. Today was the first day. So I can tell you Audrey has been with me since about 8 o'clock this morning. So that started today. We have 18 companies with 23 attendees. We have one company that has actually 3 because they're going to be doing a turnover, and they thought for both of them to take the program and then be able to turn it over to the new owners. We also have some couples that are taking the class, and that those are so that started today. It is a 10-week program, and they will finish in May with graduation. We held over 21 workshops, included strategic marketing, small business. We had Colorado Green Business Network. We covered a lot of human resources. We bring up HRX to do that professional training, and of course work with our Small Business Development Center to and bringing up those resources. Other highlights include that we, since Kylie's come on board, she started in March, but I think hit the ground running by June. In the last 6 months of the year, she visited over 200 of our local businesses, not just downtown, but went throughout town, went throughout our valley. The other thing we're doing, and that's part of the business retention and expansion, is our one-on-one discussions. When I had to do this presentation today, I'm like, I really can't share who we're meeting with, because at this time, when there's some things that we'll be able to share in the next 6 months or the next year when we meet again. But at this point, what we're doing is helping convene people who might have a gap with somebody who might be able to offer a service that fills that gap. We had one business, they're not sure they're going to be successful. So we've been working with them a little bit on what that might look like if they're not able to continue. We had another couple that came to us. They have a very large project they'd like to bring in, so they needed those resources. Who do we talk to in these places? And of course, everybody's looking for what Christina always says, like the free money. There's no free money, Colleen. So we're always trying to find those resources. Are there grants? Are there opportunities for people? and that type of thing. So we do those one-on-one conversations, but we'll have more data and hopefully we'll be able to showcase. One of the deals I make with them is if I connect you with this person, you have to tell me, did the project work? Did you make revenue? And how much money did you make? Because I want to be able to come back to you and say that we were able to connect partners who help generate their own revenue for each other. So that's part of the output. We were, as I said, we hired Kylie she's here this evening. We hired her in March. We brought on Alyssa in June as a part-time staff person. And through some cost sharing between the Chamber and Economic Development, we brought her in full-time. And she's the reason all our things look very pretty. We're in the big girl pants now. Our Canva queen, she is amazing and a great asset in our office. And she's able to help put together so many things and helps us increase our capacity as a department. Most of you attended our Visit Estes, or our State of Estes Park event. That'll be even bigger and better on December 11th if you want to join us for this year. Part of the strategic plan, I want to tie some of these things back to that, is being asked by Travis to partner or look at the downtown plan and how can we then get engagement, how can we get consensus. We reached out to Downtown Colorado Inc. We outsourced that knowledge and we have been working with them for the last 3 months and we'll continue with that through the end of March. And so we're working, that is a nonprofit that helps towns and or organizations like ourselves kind of put those processes in place so that we get the feedback we need from the community and all of that we are more successful so that when we do plan projects that we are getting all the feedback and have all the processes in place. Last year I was asked how do we engage in the business community. I think most of you know we have a Friday Focus newsletter that goes out to not only our members, we also send that to our non-member list. We do a monthly economic development newsletter. We also created a quarterly newsletter for our brand new Construction Alliance. They have been great. We are meeting, their first meeting of this quarter would be on February 18th. Tying back into the strategic plan, we are working with Jason, the Estes Park Housing Authority, to talk a little bit about how we can talk about housing. So we're working with them. That's Jason's leading that a little bit with us. One of the things that came up, and I noted at the bottom here, our first Economic Development Council meeting in January, we learned that 4 businesses already through the first week of the year knew that they didn't have a strong enough holiday season, that they were not going to have the cash flow to make it to high season, which would probably start in late May or maybe early June. So what we did was we reached out to our partners and said, how do we help these people? And so we created this document with all of these resources, and that QR code is for anybody who didn't receive it, but we put it out in the paper. It went out in both of our newsletters. I shared it with the mayor just in case he had a conversation with somebody, but this was we got that out within 3 days. We reached out to all of and we needed the input. How do we help? And it includes the B side and also as well as Colorado Enterprise Fund. Our local banks, both Bank of Estes Park and Bank of Colorado, put their contact information out, put their programming out, because we want to make sure, whatever resources we have, we know we have businesses who take bridge loans. We know that to get to the high season. So we wanted to make sure that we could continue to do that. Other ways that we do have communication that happens is we have Kylie, as I said, walking through town, and we have our alliance meetings. We've kind of combined wedding and lodging because so much of the content was similar. This Thursday, we're doing the trifecta and adding food and beverage. So we'll be meeting on Thursday morning. One of the things that we talk that kind of goes back to your strategic plan as well is favorable business climate as well as local spending. We're going to approach them and ask would they like to do a restaurant week, maybe in April or May. So we're going to get that feedback from those that are experts in the food and beverage industry and see, is this going to work in our town? We think it could. And then we've gotten some resources, and I've had some great conversation already with Sarah from Visit Estes Park, which she'd be able to help us do that. I wanted to share, we continue to partner with these are our strategic partners, right? Larimer County Business Resources, Adam Crow is part of that, and he is on our council. I'm also part of the Workforce Development Board. So we are just receiving so many resources from that, including there is a 5-year plan called, it's a big title, Northeast Regional Tactical Workforce Plan. They're breaking down 3 industries, and that's their focus for the next 2 to 5 years: healthcare, manufacturing, and construction. we're going to really focus in on that construction piece. It's about adding more workforce in that industry because they know there's a gap in northern Colorado in between Larimer and Weld. So they are putting those resources. So we're going to have resources that are going to be regional that we can then bring back into our community and share with our construction alliance and those. We have so many businesses in there that are privately owned, like they're family owned, right? So there's opportunities that increase their teams. We also, for shopping locally, we worked with Visit Estes Park to say who's going to be open for Christmas and New Year's. We put that information out. Of course, all our visitors visit their site. We put it out through social media. It was a great partnership. We reached out to our community and said, what are you doing for Valentine's Day? That is Saturday, by the way, for those of you who need to know. So, and we had over 20 businesses give us their information on all the specials that they were doing for Valentine's Day, which we have then since put out. Of course, it has to get elicified. She makes it really pretty, and then we put that out. But that is what that is, and we'll be doing that for our holidays so that we can get our local businesses out in front of our local community and increasing that local spend. But to have 20 of our businesses actually do that, we're very excited about what kind of impact that will have. The last thing I wanted to share real quick is the enterprise zone. I think you've heard us talk about it a little bit. It's an opportunity for tax credits. This is a whole hour conversation on its own, so no, I won't do that. But we brought up, Janine Lettingham came up and talked a little bit about what this looks like. She kind of went through all the pieces with us. Tomorrow, I am visiting a local business. I can't experiment in here because one, we're not in the zone, and two, we don't operate as a for-profit business. So I'm going to go to one of our partners, and we're going to actually see what it takes to pre-certify. So you put your address in. If you're in the zone, then my understanding, it takes 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to practice this, and then we're going to bring our people together. Anybody who wants to do this, we'll have them all in a room together with their laptops. Let's get you pre-certified. Larimer County is going to give us the 24 and 25 numbers of people who took advantage of the enterprise zone so that we will know in the next 10 years, each year, because it's a 10-year, this is our commitment for 10 years, we will know how many more businesses qualified or certified, and then we will get those numbers. We actually can see those the tax dollars and the impact. So we'll have those, we will have valid numbers for you each year as we progress. And then the last one is just because, I also run a chamber. We had to tell you all the things we were doing. So I'm not going to go, these are all on our website. We are bringing up HRX 3 times this year. We felt there was a big gap on getting ready with human resources for season. Small Business Development Center, Hope Hartman and her team, will have them up 5 times. We're also doing something unique. They will be doing 4 sessions, all-day sessions, one-on-one in person, versus if you want to meet with an SBDC person, usually you have to do it via Zoom. If you want to have that consultant time, they're going to be on site. We're going to use our Bank of Colorado boardroom, and you will have your private one-on-one session with somebody. One's on social media, one's on finance, and then we'll book the other 2 out. So we are going to experiment with that this year and see how much impact and see if we get people who book those. So these are just some of the new things that we're doing, and I want to say I am very grateful for your investment in what we do. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Thanks for all you do,
Thank you.
and welcome,
And I was
Kylie.
way over 7 minutes.
And any other, okay, Trustee Hazelton.
I do have a couple questions, which I warned you were coming, so you've had
I
adequate.
was ready for
you've
you. I
had
figured you
adequate
and my
notice.
friend Mark over there probably have a few.
I gave you a sneak peek. Okay, so you talked a little bit about this. I'm going to skip that one because I think you answered it adequately. It was about caseworking, rebranded as business retention and expansion, which ironically is like, the phrase that was used initially when the EDC was working on all that. So it's interesting to see everything that's old becomes new again,
Yes.
I guess. I'm curious about the reworking of base. So I went back and looked at my notes from your last year's presentation. And one of the things you had talked about was, hey, we're revamping base. And you mentioned that it was in the slides and saw some of it in the report. But can you talk about what's different about the base program this time around?
There's a couple things. One is we pulled former graduates together. We had the program last year. It wasn't as robust. We needed to change it up. So we brought former base graduates together who were happy to share their opinion. We brought them together, and then we heard what they thought we needed to include, how long it should be, the pace of it. We really restructured it. Pace, base in the past, I think, was 6 months. We are literally doing it 3 to 4 times a month, getting it done. A lot of people and management changes over 6 or 8 months. And then you could lose people and life changes. So we have this is very fast pace. We are also not giving them homework. They are in a learning session from 8 to 12. We have lunch, they take a break, and then they go and they will begin work on their business plan. So that next 2 hours will be, and then they can talk to each other. Today, there was so much conversation today. This is an incredible class. And it's a great mix of people. And then when we talked about who do we bring in to do this? Because the person that we had do last year he actually ended up moving out of state. We both were like, what about Kevin Bennis? Like, just his passion in these meetings as we're doing the programming, he was all in and he was excellent this morning. So I am really excited because he's an entrepreneur, he's a base graduate, and he knows this town very well. And he's very good at that one and drawing people out who think, we have some introverts in the class, and he's getting them already to step up and talk about things. So that's a little bit different than what I think we've done before.
Can I just add one
Please.
comment too? One thing that Kevin did also is pre-meeting with all of our attendees to make sure they were prepared to participate in the BASE program, that their business was at a level that that they would gain from the program. We heard that feedback over time, that people were at very different stages, and giving them one-on-one coaching or connecting them with the appropriate resource if they needed some advancement to be ready or to make sure their specific needs were addressed or their concerns would be answered through the program, whether that was in the group or one-on-one.
Thanks. I also wanted to ask about, so we've received a lot of really compelling information about the economic impact of our nonprofit industry. So I'm curious about how you engage with nonprofits. And I'm interested in particular, just looking at the board update, which is great that Sarah's joined. Obviously, that's a natural partnership, but I'm curious about NPO representation and also the work you do to support that community, or if that's in the works.
You might have.
Yeah, I'm happy to make a few comments there. ENN has been a very strong force in our community for a number of years and really dedicated to that facet of our community need. Nonprofits are different than for-profit businesses. While there are a lot of similarities in maybe management or HR and some overlap, there are some specific differences. So certainly a partner. ENN has been a strategic partner, was included in that list of partners. So we have worked closely with them over time. However, being mindful to not create redundancies in the work that we do. With that said, I do think there are a lot of opportunities to make sure that those areas that are applicable to for-profit or nonprofit are available to the community as a whole.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think we totally agree that there are differences between the nonprofit and for-profit companies and organizations in our community, and I think there'd be some great benefit from economic development training for some of our nonprofit leaders and for their input to be brought to the table to help really round out that economic picture. So, just a thought. And then my last question. I know this one is coming, but I'm curious about some of what you have presented. I would find. I would think, and I know Estes is a unique community, that a chamber would provide some of those opportunities. And it's, we're talking about it from the Economic Development Workforce Council side of things. So my question for you is how is it separated between something that a chamber might do versus what the EDWC picks up and handles, and where the separation or what the difference is there? Separation isn't the right word, but what is designated as a chamber piece versus something the chamber would naturally do versus what we allocate to EDWC?
I think sometimes that they are going to align. They could be under the both umbrellas. One of the things that having economic development underneath or with us is that it gives us the flexibility to work with everybody in the community. We don't have to just focus on our chamber members. That's a great membership. We have almost 300 businesses that participate in the chamber. But what this does is allows us to reach out and connect and work with everybody. We don't have any boundaries, and that does include our nonprofit community. We did look at, and we've been working with Karen and Cato on our content about some of that. Like, does it work? Like one of the HRX sessions, they sent out to their group because it's not based on nonprofits. Like it's human resources, we all need some of this, right? So we are looking at those pieces. Some would be like Small Business Development Center work is more focused on for-profit businesses. But I did verify everybody's welcome. It's just they won't necessarily revise their content to a nonprofit, but they are fine. But when it comes to what we do, it just opens up more doors for us. And we've been able to put things under that umbrella. Like, for example, we're working with Val Thompson on Dine Around. So we aren't so restricted necessarily to just work with our chamber members. We can offer it to any restaurant that is in the community.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hello. I did
Told you,
make it
no
back.
questions. You're a liaison.
Yeah, I know.
Board member, yeah.
Well, I just wanted to point out a couple of things. First of all, I commend you on restructuring the base program. I was in the base program last year, and it started with 20 or more people, and by the end, there were maybe 3. It just extended too long. I think the facilitator was okay. Kevin, though, I think will be fabulous, and I think it makes sense to compress it more, keep people engaged more currently. So compliment you on that. That was a good thing to do. The other thing is I wanted to focus a little bit, because you didn't talk a whole lot about this, on Enterprise Zone, because I think this is a tremendous opportunity for many, many of our employers that they really need to pre-certify in order to get it. You got to pre-certify. You can't just wait. So you got to pre-certify. And that's an easy thing to do, as you point. Well, you'll find out how easy.
Tomorrow,
Yeah. But it's got some incredible tax credits, like a 12% tax credit for job training expenses, 25% rehab hard cost expenditures. They're just some amazing things that, they're not in and of itself going to make your business successful, but every business knows that every little dollar matters to get to the bottom line. So I appreciate your focus on Enterprise Zone. I know we talked as a board about having some educational programs for this. I think this is, I just wanted to bring attention to this because there isn't a business in town that shouldn't look at this and consider whether they're eligible and whether, it's worth their time to engage in it.
Well,
So,
there's no cost to participate, and even
Right.
if you don't know what you might be doing this year, it's an annual, just pre-certify.
Pre-certify,
Because don't
that's-
start a project, please, don't start something until you've done your homework on
yeah,
this.
because if you
you're
start a
gonna lose the
project and
right.
then you pre-certify, prior expenditures aren't covered.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, we elected not to spend a significant amount of time in tonight's meeting talking about
No,
this.
I get that.
But it is a big deal, and I do just want to point out to Colleen's efforts in making sure that Estes Park was included in this designation, and also ensuring that specific areas of our community were included was really important, and really a powerful testament to why we do need to make sure Estes is represented in economic development in the county and in the state. This is a big deal. The idea is that we graduate out of being an enterprise zone designation. Berthoud is a great example. Berthoud is no longer an enterprise zone, so does not receive these tax credits. So we do intend to make sure our community is aware of this and has every opportunity to take advantage of these tax credits over the next decade. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Thank you so much. Great work. Carry on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a couple items before we move on to the other action items that I missed during my earlier comments. I'm going to stop calling it ballot initiative 300 because it is an ordinance now. We can call it by 11-25. So I'll begin referring to it that way because it, like I said, it's law. That's the official name of it. I noticed after Trustee Brown made comment about waiting commentary from the board members before we decide what to do going forth and whether to set an agenda item for discussion of that review process. None of us made commentary on that. Town Attorney Kramer, what does that mean?
Mayor, I'm not aware of any process established for determining whether a town board member has gone afoul of policy 103, the town board code of conduct, that's something the board would have to take up of its own accord if the board decided to do that. So, go ahead.
Yeah, so the question is, board members who are here, and we do have enough for a consensus, do we want to bring that to the next agenda for additional discussion? Silence would represent no.
I don't know the appropriate measure. I think it's worth responding to because Trustee Brown requested that the board respond to it. I would prefer if it were something that was more noticed so that we had time and the community had time. And then I would prefer if it was a full board discussion. I understand we have quorum, but I think it'd be appropriate for
Right.
all 7 to be
And
here.
the next time we'll have the full board, I believe, is the first meeting in March. And then the second meeting in March, is Trustee Youngland still here, or has she left by that time? Is that her last meeting?
That's her last one.
Okay, so we have 2 meetings in March to have the full board. Mayor Pro Tem?
I agree, it should be the whole board, 100%. And mostly because Bill has requested it, I think that it's fair that we have that conversation, for sure.
Okay, Trustee Eigel?
Yeah, I was just gonna weigh in because it was silent, so I pushed my button. I think that we do need to respond to the trustees' request of the board that we should all be present to represent the spectrum of voters. And I think that we need to establish a process for responding to, acknowledging, and addressing a concern that is raised along these lines. We're a self-governing board, we're a self-monitoring board, and I think if one trustee asks for that, we should be able to accomplish that within established policy.
And I agree. Therefore, Town Administrator, if we can get that on the March 10 agenda, and I would put it on, you know, it's not a study session, a regular board in case there is any action. Now, I'm not sure what actions we may describe. If we describe actions, that may prolong it to something beyond March 10th. But this will at least be the discussion, so we have the opportunity to either get closure that night or recommend further action. Does that sound accurate? And again, because we do not have a formal policy for handling a so-called formal complaint, we are inventing it this time, but as Trustee Eigel says, it'd be worthy for the future to have a defined policy or at least discuss the potential of such policy.
That makes sense to me, Mayor. I'm sure we all have thoughts about it, and we can have a conversation at the time, but it can be an agenda item for
Yeah,
discussion.
so agenda item without any action associated with it at that. Okay. Travis, any other thoughts on it? Okay. Good. We had left that open-ended, and we're covered on that now. We can move forward with the Planning Commission items. There's one, Resolution 1526, Freeland Heights Subdivision Preliminary Plat. Everybody knows who Freeland was. That was Mr. Stanley's first name, F.O. This will be a public hearing, actually, so let me get everything in the proper order before I welcome Mr. Hornbeck. The next order of business, the public hearing on that item that I just mentioned. At this hearing, the Board of Trustees shall consider the information presented during the public hearing from the town staff, from the applicant, public comment, and written comments received on the application. Has any trustee had any ex parte communications concerning this application which are not part of the board packet? I see no lights or yeses, so we're good. Any member of the board may ask questions at any stage of the public hearing, which may be responded to at that time. This public hearing is open. We can hear the staff report from Paul Hornbeck.
Thank you, Mayor and Trustees. The Freeland Heights preliminary plat before you tonight is Lot 2A of the Stanley subdivision, located within the Stanley Historic District. Being within the district gives it some unique characteristics. It's governed by the Stanley Master Plan as in terms of the standards that will apply to the review. It is also subject to the development code in terms of the process. So that's why it's before you tonight. So normal process of planning commission making recommendation, town board making a decision, and a final plat would also be back before you as well. Separately, there is the Stanley Technical Review Committee, TRC, which also must review and approve this application as their jurisdiction is essentially all new development, so any construction infrastructure associated with it must be approved by them. So a bit of a process. With that, a little history on this application, this lot. Lot 2 was platted in 2004 as the Overlook condominiums. It included 11 duplex buildings, 6 single-family buildings, and 4 multifamily buildings. Those multifamily and duplex buildings have since all been constructed. And in 2020, Lot 2 was subdivided into Lots 2A and 2B. 2A shown here in the red and is the subject of tonight's hearing. So Lot 2A contains 6 envelopes, building envelopes. In 2024, the plat was amended to change those 6 single-family envelopes from duplex envelopes to single-family envelopes. So this was an increase in density, but was in accordance with the Stanley Master Plan. The applicants request approval of this preliminary subdivision plat, and it would eliminate the 6 building envelopes and create 10 single-family lots. Those lots range in size from approximately 7,000 to 24,000 square feet. Access would be provided by 2 private shared driveways, which would connect to Overlook Court. Those shared driveways would be privately maintained. There's also emergency access easement in place, which would remain, which connects to the property to the north, Black Canyon Inn property. Grading and drainage plan included for reference as well, as is a landscape plan. Advantages of this application: it does comply with relevant standards and criteria in the Stanley Master Plan. I'll summarize those standards here. All lots meet the minimum standards, including minimum size. The minimum open space requirement of 30% is met. This is done through platting building envelopes, which will limit the developable area on each lot and reserve the remaining space as open space. The master plan encourages that grading be minimized and the natural contours and slope be worked with to minimize disturbance. This application is consistent with that objective by limiting grading to around building footprints rather than larger overlot grading of the entire site. Preservation of significant vegetation. Approximately 20 significant trees are shown to be removed for construction. Approximately 25 new trees are proposed. Preservation of significant views. The master plan states that buildings should be sited in a manner that preserves significant views. Primary concern is views to the Stanley Hotel from off-site, particularly from the south to the front facade. Those views will not be affected. Views that would be affected are properties to the north. There's a single-family, 2 single-family homes essentially directly north. Their views would have some impact, but not to an unexpected extent, given that development is permitted on this property. The applicant has also worked to align building envelopes towards the southwest to allow view windows towards Longs Peak. Road alignment, the driveways will require modest cut and fill and this is consistent with the master plan. Landscaping is also consistent. The plan seeks to soften off-site views. This is done with native plantings of aspen and spruce trees. Pedestrian circulation. The master plan requires pedestrian circulation. In this case, a sidewalk currently exists on Overlook Court, and it terminates at the cul-de-sac. And the low volumes of this proposed development do not warrant sidewalks on the shared driveways. And density of the proposal is in conformance with the master plan. The applicant provided detailed calculations. It's a somewhat convoluted formula for coming up with that density, with accommodations units and residential units being different factors for density, and staff did confirm conformance with those requirements. Staff has not identified any disadvantages. Planning Commission did recommend Town Board approve this preliminary plat, subject to findings and conditions in the resolution. Those conditions were that the final plat designate which lots permit accommodations use and which are restricted to residential, and that access easements and driveway and drainage maintenance agreements benefiting all lots with indirect access shall be included with the final plat. Public notice was done in accordance with code requirements. No formal public comments have been received. Sample motions for your reference, and the applicant is present and I believe has a presentation they'd like to share.
Are there any other conditions for approval that are not in the staff report?
No, sir.
Does the applicant have any presentation to make? You're being approached.
Good evening, Mayor, board members. I'm Brad O'Neill. I'm the development partner in this venture. Don Darling with Darling Enterprises is my construction partner. Since I'm a recovering architect, the language I'm most fluent in is graphics. So I thought that would be the best way to illustrate our thinking behind the layout and the density. I was able to pull out this original drainage plan and site plan from the original approval in 2004 on the western half of the Overlook neighborhood. The eastern half is not shown, but the 6 building envelopes that are subject for tonight's meeting are shown here, along with some of the other duplex units in Overlook. So this was, again, based on a drawing, I think in 2003, and the plan was approved in 2004. Scroll down. So you can see the green shaded buildings are the existing Overlook units. There's 1, 2, 3, 5 duplex buildings shown, and then there's out of the 2 fourplexes and 2 fiveplexes, you'll see those buildings in the lower section. And the blue, represents the single family that were originally platted for this site. And those are approximate sizes of the single family because they got to the point where they had a rough schematic design for the home, enough to put it on the site to do drainage calculations and so forth. Now, as Paul mentioned, John sought approval from the TRC, the Technical Review Committee, in 2022 to convert the 6 single-family lots to 6 duplex lots, doubling density from 6 units to 12 units. And if those were constructed, those would be the approximate size and shape of those duplex units on the site. What we're proposing is to reduce density from a total of 12 units to 10 single-family units. And instead of doing duplex, we'd like to do single-family detached because we feel it's in keeping with the original concept for this portion of the site, that being single-family. It's the most preferred product type for vacation homeowners. And we think we can end up with a smaller footprint per building to introduce more landscaping between the buildings, and also, more importantly, to create view corridors for our neighbors to the north. As you can see, if we were to do duplexes, those duplex units, those two eastern ones, would fully block the views of the mountains from our two neighbors to the north, whereas the single family opens up view corridor. If you were to take a look at the approximate footprint of each of those single family homes and compare them to the footprint of the 6 duplex units, they're approximately the same. The single family footprint is about 2,200 square feet for the footprint. Each duplex is 3,600. So one is 22,000 total square feet of the single family, and the other is 21,600. So approximately the same footprint on the site. So we're not really increasing the density from what was improved in terms of massing. Now, this is a picture of one of the existing duplex units below us. And as you can see, it's quite wide. And as you drive up Overlook Court, if you had 3 duplexes all in a row, pretty much that's all you would see. It was just all one massing of duplex units. Whereas we are proposing this single family house, which we've started construction on our model home in one of the existing building envelopes. And that you'll see that turret form, which responds to what the land gives us in terms of views and the sweeping views of Estes Valley, which is the primary view of that. So all lots will basically have that view of Longs Peak and that portion of the Continental Divide. And that's why we swung the homes around so that they all take advantage of that view. So that's the presentation. Happy to address any questions or comments.
Questions, comments, trustees? I'll also open it up to public comment. Any person will have the opportunity to address the board concerning the application. You have to state your name for the record, limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone who would like to comment on this application? I see none, which probably means you don't need to do a rebuttal then, so you're probably safe there. Town Clerk's Office, Sarah, any communications have been received in regard to the application which are not in the board packet? No, nothing else has been received. Trustees, any other questions concerning the application?
I have a couple of questions of Paul on this. The accommodation units on this property, I presume, will be subject to our linkage fee for vacation homes, is that correct?
I'm not an expert in that area, but I believe so.
Yes?
Paul, what's the zoning on the property?
Accommodation.
It is accommodations with a,
The zoning is not necessarily determinative.
Right.
I haven't had this conversation with the town clerk, but I suspect that that's correct, that it would apply.
Okay. All right, and I was kind of curious about those oddball calculations that you mentioned. I think I followed them. But could you briefly identify, I understand the Overlook condo people are threatening a lawsuit on this. And it appears that the principal basis of the lawsuit is the number of units involved in some measure. Could you explain your understanding of what that dispute is? I don't know if you have the lawsuit.
I can speak to density. Just a sec.
And I believe that there have been in the public forum, letters addressed to the trustees, CCing us in on the correspondence between the different legal authorities of both parties. Although I can't state in summary what the,
Well, that's why I was asking.
yeah.
I thought it would be helpful to simply publicly identify what that dispute is. Now, my understanding is the lawsuit's been filed but not served, so it's not a lawsuit until that happens. But it is an active dispute, I guess.
Yeah, I thought I saw today a note saying that there was an intent to serve it or file it, but I don't believe it's been filed.
Sarah, can you share my screen? Yeah, so I believe there's some misunderstanding or disagreement on the allowable density for this site. So I can run through what the master plan allows. It envisioned 3 potential development scenarios for this property. One would be all residential. In that case, there's a cap of 46 dwelling units. The other, or the next scenario would be all accommodations, which would be a cap of 92 units. There's also the possibility of a mixed residential and accommodations, which is what has occurred here. I believe there may be an argument the argument we've heard, I believe, has focused on the 46 dwelling units. However, it is already a mix of accommodations and dwelling units. So therefore, this, the formula for coming up with that maximum is provided here and is what applies.
Okay. And based on your calculation, the mixed residential accommodation density is met.
Correct.
Okay. I don't really want to get involved in the lawsuit in any way, shape, or form. That's not for us to determine, but I guess what the key is that staff has determined that the criteria on density has been met in this proposal.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, I understand, too, that there are some issues relating to setbacks that, now, is that going to go to the Board of Adjustment, or is that, how's that been dealt with? Because there's a front and a back setback thing, I think.
Yeah, Trustee Brown, the TRC has the authority to approve variances.
Okay,
And they have done so.
so it doesn't go to the Board of Adjustment.
Correct.
Okay. All right, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Others, no. All reports, statements, exhibits, and written communications presented will be accepted as part of the record. The public hearing is closed. I can take a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve Resolution 1526, Freeland Heights subdivision preliminary plat.
I'll second.
Trustee Brown moved to approve 1526, and Mayor Pro Tem Sinak seconded. Any other comments? We can vote. And it passes unanimously with our quorum. We'll move on to the next action item, which is the final 2025 Strategic Plan Progress Report and amended 2026 Strategic Plan. Town Administrator Mahalik.
Thank you, Mayor. The action item before you tonight is consideration of approval of the amended 2026 strategic plan. This is the final step of our 2025 strategic planning process. We review the 2025 strategic planning process progress, and any objectives that were not completed are carried over officially into the strategic plan or called out specifically in the memo as a request to not carry those over. This ensures that there is no drop-off of a town board strategic objective without action. So in 2025, we had 76 objectives. 64 of those were completed. 3 of those were multi-year objectives, and 9 remained incomplete. 88% of those objectives were completed, and that number, through a math goofiness remains the same whether you include or exclude the multi-year objectives as completed or incompleted. So 88% of the objectives are typical. Our goal is 80%, knowing that there are going to be factors throughout the year that are impacting our ability to complete those. Sometimes that's because we have a lot of them. Sometimes that's because there's unanticipated barriers that pop up. And sometimes it's just a capacity issue. We've had that conversation many times here, though I think we are getting better at that collectively to try not to overextend ourselves. What you have in front of you is the 2026 amended plan. I will go over briefly over the carryover objectives. You can find notes on why those are carrying over in the 2025 progress report. For exceptional community services, there are two. One is developing a master plan for town parks and open space. Of course, you heard that update on community engagement tonight. Reflecting on that one, we should have made that a multi-year goal. The idea that we were going to complete that in 9-10 months and do it correctly, that's on me. That was not a realistic time frame. You will notice later some amendments to our 26 plan that seek to get ahead of that particular challenge. I'll talk through those in more detail. So we do anticipate that that will be completed this year. The museum annex addition, despite the tireless efforts of Derek Pastor, our facilities project manager, we anticipate completing that this week. We are at the mercy of some electrical inspections there. That one will wrap up no later than March, but we are carrying that over just to make sure we put a bow on that. I do want to thank Derek and the entire facilities team for their work on bringing that forward. Derek's put a lot of time and effort into that project. A number of rationale behind that delay that will be included in the project closure report. Implementing the new HRIS, the Human Resources Information System payroll, that's carrying over. We selected a firm, we selected a product. That rollout's about 4 months, 4 to 5 months. That's happening at the same time we're doing the ERP and SpryPoint, our utility billing system. That's a lot of change in a little bit of time. That one is carrying over as well. Collaborating with Drive Clean Colorado to accelerate equitable adoption of clean transportation options. I do not have an excuse for this one. I neglected to ensure that we had that scheduled for an event in 2025. We are in the process of scheduling that for the Bigfoot Days event in 2026. So we will have an event with Drive Clean Colorado to show off, promote electric cars. There's certainly an uphill battle right now with the expiration of those federal tax credits. The purchasing of electric vehicles is seeing more headwinds than we've seen in the past years. But we do anticipate completing that in Q2 of this year. President DePasquale mentioned the work that we have done with the chamber on the downtown plan. There's a bigger philosophical conversation that we need to have with you all. I do anticipate bringing that forward probably to the next board, the full board after the municipal election. There's a lot of questions and I think decisions that board needs to make about the role of the town government vis-a-vis implementation of that plan. There's a range of potential options, but we'll really need some guidance from the board on that. So that is carrying over another year. This is the second time we've had to carry that one over. I do want to call that out as well. You'll note transportation, some of these have already been carried over through conversations in our 2026 strategic planning process. So completing the street rehabilitation of 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Street, that has already been carried over as a modified objective into the 26 plan. We have kicked, we've completed one of the streets. We're going to complete one of the streets this year, and we've kicked off the last street into the 2027 planning cycle. Most of that's cash flow related, financing related. Utilizing Senate Bill 267 grant funds to design transit and parking improvements for the visitor center parking lot. We need to get a CDOT environmental review. That was an unwelcome surprise at the last minute, but that is going to take us a little bit extra time. And then finally completing the design of the Fall River Trail final segment and advertising for construction to commence. We have completed the design. We were not able to advertise for construction. We are waiting for that IGA. This is included from CDOT. This is included in the 2026 strategic plan as Objective 8C1, which is construct the final stage of the Fall River Trail. which you have to advertise for construction before you can complete construction. And then lastly, utility infrastructure initiating construction of the Mall Road Looping Project. You all will recall late last year, we came before you and asked you to delay that project while we waited to close the Prospect Mountain co-bank loan, make sure we were on solid ground from a cash flow standpoint and a reserve standpoint. We do anticipate moving forward with that project this year and starting that project. There's a section in your memo of other revisions. These are cleanup items for the 2026 plan, but I do want to call out a few of these specifically, primarily in transportation. Objective 3A1, continuing to evaluate the downtown Estes Loop. We have proposed striking that based on the town board's conversation when we brought the traffic analysis back in 2025. There was discussion about not spending more money to reevaluate that every year. This reflects that conversation. We are making a number of objectives. This is new. Instead of kind of an amorphous multi-year, there's a specific timeline, 2026, 2027 objectives. Primarily, that's due to the timing of our construction season. We are very sensitive to construction that might disrupt the height of the season. So the Fall River Trail is a great example. We do not want to start that in the height of summer and disrupt traffic to the Fall River entrance. So in order to do that, we kick the start of the construction to the fall of 2026, can't finish it all in 2026, complete it in the spring 2027. So that's a primary driver behind those specific limited 2-year objectives, 2026, 2027. We've also proposed that with the microtransit service program, the startup time for that program is going to be, we can probably acquire the vehicle this year. It's going to take the next year to actually stand a program up. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, any concerns you might have. That is the 2025 wrap-up and our 2026 proposed amendments.
Trustee Brown.
On this downtown plan, it sounds like we probably need to set that up for a study session. I gather if there are philosophical issues associated with that, is that the way you would anticipate proceeding, at least with this board?
Sorry, Trustee Brown set that up as a what issue?
Study session item.
Yeah, it will likely start as a study session.
And I know it'll be after the election, I get that.
Yeah. It's primarily, there's probably going to have to be some action point, because what we don't want is a master plan out there that is unanchored to a follow-up. But I think a study session is going to be the appropriate starting point.
Okay.
It's really a conversation about how actively involved the town wants to be. If the town wants to push the implementation of this plan, we've hit some of the biggest town investment pieces. So the question is, how much does the town want to push this? How much does the town want to incentivize based on the downtown plan? It's going to be a bigger conversation. It might be a few study sessions.
Well, I'd suggest we put it on an unscheduled study session then, if the board so approves.
If the board's all right with it, we can add it as approved unscheduled and start working on it. Thank you, Trustee Brown.
I'll also open it up to public comment, if anyone has any public comment on the strategic plan update. And barring that, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the amended 2026 strategic plan as presented.
A second.
Trustee Hazelton is the prime mover today, and Mayor Pro Tem Sinek seconded.
Do we need to approve the final 2025 progress report too? No? Okay.
And therefore we can vote, because I think the motion was correct. Okay, and it passes. Thank you, Travis.
Mayor, can I just add,
Yes.
Travis, I really appreciate your transparency and straightforwardness about things why they moved, how they moved, and taking ownership of that. We've talked about this before. This came up last year, but just really appreciate that transparency. I think it's helpful for us and for the community, so thanks.
And in addition, we have clergy on the board today, so doing confessions. It's a good time for it. So.
I would be remiss if I didn't thank every member of town staff for that progress. That 88% is a reflection of them, not of me. You'll notice that one of the very few carryovers was assigned to me specifically as an item. Our town community as a employee base, they work incredibly hard to get these things done, and they take a high level of ownership of this. They understand the importance, and I think that's a reflection of their dedication to achieving what the board has set out for them. So big appreciation for everything that they do to keep this organization running.
We have one last item on the agenda tonight. We'll see if we can make it last till 1 a.m. like last time. But it'll be tough. The new police department facility site location update, Director Featherston.
Good evening, Mayor and Board of Trustee members. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, thank you. Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties. It's in as a PDF.
Oh, yeah, that's what we got.
How do I broadcast that? Because I pulled it up. Is I coming up though?
Oh, well, I have to change it. I just didn't.
All right, great, thank you. Okay, good evening. Sorry, I said that. So this evening, we are coming before you, once Sarah gets the presentation up, we're coming before you for an update on the new police department facility and the preferred site. So we've come before you in 2 study sessions in January and June about this topic, about locations. We had a joint, last time we were before you, and the public was September 9th with a joint meeting with the school district board. And this evening, we're going to provide you with an update on the preferred site. So I'm going to quickly go through the need. You all know the need, but just to highlight it for the public again, the facility that you're in was built in 91 years ago, which includes the police department. It was moved into the current location in 1974. So the facility is 52 years old with no real significant capital improvements and no expansion. Police department space, as you know, is well beyond its useful life. Critically undersized, we use about 13,000 square feet on a regular basis throughout the town. And we are proposing a site that plans for expansion, given the fact that we are staying in facilities for about 52 years. The key deficiency is parking. As you know, it's not secure or separated from visitors, so we have emergency response in the middle of a public parking lot. Inadequate physical controls when there are transfer of arrestees from vehicle to holding cells, inadequate and insecure and inadequate, secure, and integrated evidence storage, and a lack of an integrated EOC and communication center. As you know, dispatch is located separate from the PD and the town hall. This was highlighted in the town master plan, facilities master plan in 2022. So the site review consideration, again, you know, we've reviewed this before, but again, it's to reiterate it for you and the public, is that the staff has developed with the assistance of our current design consultant a screening matrix. And we have put over 22 properties through the screening matrix. And you can see the summary of the categories there of what it's screened for. We have reviewed over 13 publicly owned properties. All of those are available on the town's website. So originally, when we came to you and to the school district board back in September, we had proposed a land swap. The town staff had proposed a land swap, 3 acres of property that the town owns on the Estes Park Development Corporation property off of Community Drive for the Topfield property as part of the school district parcel. We received public comment through and after that joint meeting with the school district, and we received a formal response from the school district in October indicating that they wanted to pause any further conversation about it until they understandably did their master planning, which is underway. Timing is really unknown, it's uncertain. They may get it done within a year, but then they have to take their time to decide what is right for their district and what their needs are. So as a result of that, we decided that we should reconsider and reevaluate some of our properties. And so we did that. We went back to the property that's located, the town-owned property that's located on Community Drive. And it was further, the other thing that changed was also that the town received information from the Encore Performing Arts Group that they were withdrawing their proposal for putting a performing arts facility on that town-owned location. So that freed up our ability and thinking to look at that site. In addition, the town completed a survey of the non-deed restricted town-owned property on Community Drive. So the proposal this evening that we are presenting to you is for a new preferred location. So that the parcel that you see outlined in the red, that is 17 acres that is not deed restricted. In 2003, the town did a quiet title action because this property was owned by the Estes Park Development Corporation that did not have the Stanley restriction on it, deed restriction on it. So there is no use restriction on this property. So the property to the west of Community Drive is about, I should know that off the top of my head, it is over 3 acres. That we are proposing that become the preferred site for a police department facility, for a public safety facility. That would potentially impact up to 6 barns that are located on it. As you know, the replacement and rebuilding of barns has been a long planned capital improvement for the event center, so this would coincide with that. As you know, that's what's on this parcel is the 6 acres. On the east side of the parcel, you have a number of uses and leases with the school district for the CTE as well as for the Parks and Rec district. Just read all that. So tonight we're only asking you for feedback. We would come back to you. We're proposing to come back to you in March 10th to seek your formal affirmation of this as the preferred site location. The town would formally notify the school district of the new preferred site location so they can move about their business accordingly. We would continue to work on identifying options of potential costs and financing for the displaced fairground barns. We would continue our concept design work. Up to this point, we have been doing conceptual design. We are prepared to release an RFP for the ongoing design that would get us through schematic design as well as construction documents. Public engagement opportunities would be provided during the formal land use process. We'd probably do 1 or 2 public sessions about the design to get the public's feedback on the design, and then we would come back to you in Q2 of this year to talk about cost and financing. As you know, the financing component right now is no tax increases to reallocate I believe it's $1.2 million that is currently being provided to the fire district each year, and that it would go and get its own sales tax, I believe, to replace its own funding, the funding that the town provides. So that is the financing scheme, but we would come back to you in Q2 of this year to review that. The tentative timeline is to continue our location, to hopefully affirm in 2026 the location, continue our design and finance planning, solidify our financing and design in 2027 based on the ballot that the fire district would put forward, start construction in 2028, and be occupying the space by 2030. So that is just a really brief update. And, I have Derek Pastor, the project manager, Ian Stewart, who's the chief of police, and we have Melissa Lanning, who is our design consultant here this evening to answer any questions you may have.
Well, I always like to hear what Chief Stewart says about the current concept.
Thank you, sir. I'm extremely excited about this location. I think the whole town, the public and the board have been hearing me talk for a couple of years now about, I was hoping to find something in that sweet spot where we'd be close enough to the school to be able to impact that immediately should there be any kind of crisis there. We'd have ingress and egress out to our major routes in and out of town. We're getting that with 36-7 and just a little jaunt across Wall Road to 34. And yet we were still close enough to downtown where we could be there if needed in a hurry. This really does an amazing job of being right where I'd hoped we could balance all those priorities. The other thing I really like about this facility is, this location is kudos to the amazing work that Rob Hinkle and his staff have done at the event center, but there are so many events occurring now. This town sponsors so many events that are at that center that we would be co-located in that same footprint to further facilitate the security of those special events. It makes me really excited about the prospect of this. And I can't thank town staff enough for all the work they've done just to bring us to this point right now.
That's a good endorsement. Other comments from the group at all? Questions from trustees? We're not making any decisions today. Go ahead, Trustee Brown.
This is for Town Attorney Kramer. Would this property need to be rezoned to qualify for this use? No?
No, it does not need a rezoning to qualify.
Very good, thank you.
You all could not see the police chief's face when he was extremely excited, but it was kind of funny that it's the same face we always see. It's very interesting.
Yeah, we want this guy for a poker partner. He's not going to give anything.
Nothing changed. His eyebrows were exact same. So as a representative of the community, I've sat in on all the conversations and heard all the discussion and all the details, and we have gone through this and we've taken a lot of public input. So I just want to relate to the community that as a representative, people are working very hard on the town staff to find a place that's going to work very well. We don't have the financing figured out, but this location, for a myriad of reasons, is a remarkably well-located, which is also going to have a good view, and it's going to be strategically a good choice for our community. So having sat on the conversations, we are doing your work to see that the community's needs are met, and I think that this is going in exactly the right direction. I'm glad the circumstances changed, that we could go this direction. So thanks for your hard work and for the whole team that's working on this. Yes, sir.
Yeah, whatever we need to do to move forward to the next step sounds good to me.
I'm as excited as the chief is.
Any other comments? Lacking those, we have reached the end of our agenda. This meeting is adjourned.